Hello, guys and gals, and welcome. Welcome. We're going to do another top 10 worst items today. I already have done the uniques, and I believe the rune words is already up. And today we're going to be doing the top 10 worst sets in the game. Again, we're not going to be ranking these because they're all terrible, and we don't compare our turds. I don't care whether yours has corn or peanuts in it. Like, it doesn't matter. All right, like they're all terrible, and they all deserve a spot on this list. To make things more dramatic, obviously I don't have the list available to you here, so you can't see it, and I'm gonna be picking the characters one at a time. So let's just go down the list and let's see what pops up first. So we've got. I got so many characters on this account, just all sorts of various things. And finding the first set on the list, we have Arcannas. Arcannas is the first set on the list that deserves a spot in the top 10 worst sets in the game. And it's really just due to the fact that Arcannas is just not really that great in terms of what it gives you as a character. Arcannas gives you a small amount of plus to skills, +2 once you have the full set on, for a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces. It consumes your weapon slot and your shield slot at the same time, which is very unfortunate. It is only level 15, which at least there's something to be said there, so it's not like it's consuming your, say, spirit sword and spirit shield slot at that particular moment. But the amount of faster cast that it gives you isn't the most amazing, and there are better options for faster cast, especially if you have things like a Wall of the Eyeless. You can also get wands and things that have 20% faster cast on them directly. So you lose out on faster cast to get a little bit more plus to skills, I guess. But technically, you could be wearing a Saigon shield that's +1, and you could be wearing an orb that has +3 to the skill of your choice, which means you could technically be getting +4 to skills if you were using a shield and a orb at the same time. Which are pretty easy to come by level 15. In fact, you should have been picking up like every orb that you've come by at that point and putting them on. And as far as faster cast shield goes, I do believe Wall of the Eyeless is a little bit higher level than that, but it's not necessarily impossible to come by a decent amount of faster cast, like a plate early on. You can obviously wear stealth. You can also get faster cast rings, a faster cast amulet, and you can get faster cast in some various places. You might even be lucky enough to get a mage fists at that point. And so there's a lot of various options that you can go with, where a two-handed staff that is consuming both your shield and your sword slot, or your wand slot essentially, is not very good. Another big problem with the set is that, well, you don't get a lot of partial bonuses. So the +1 to skills and the 20% faster cast disappear if you're not wearing the entire set, which are kind of like the two best things on the set. Is that it has +1 to skills and 20% faster cast. So if you're not wearing the entire set, you don't get those anymore. You do get a little bit of magic find on the amulet, and you get some mana and regeneration to mana. The raw amount of mana that you get is probably the best thing about this set, just the fact that it gives a raw amount of mana. It has, what, I have 200 mana right now, and if I put on the full set, you'll see that my mana goes up to 360, which is about 160 additional mana. The regeneration of mana isn't important. The raw mana is much more important because it actually helps the character regenerate. But for the most part, there's just so many better options that you could be potentially using with this set. The full set is relatively unused because nobody wants to wear the staff, because in general it just consumes too many of your slots and doesn't give you enough of a good bonus to wear the staff in the first place. The other pieces, like the armor, is usually replaced with stealth, which gives you faster cast rate. So even though the set itself gives you 20% faster cast rate, well, you lose the faster cast rate because you're not wearing stealth. So the gain is essentially a net, like, wash. The small bonuses that it does give that are useful for your character at this particular time period aren't really worth what you're losing in the grand scheme of things. And the 50% magic find can be gotten for just 2 pieces. So if you have just the helmet and the amulet on, you can get the 50% magic find and screw the rest of the set. Overall, Arcanna's is just not really a good set, and it really comes down to the fact that most sorceresses just don't use staves. Ever since like the beginning of the game, staves were just never really the best item. Sorceresses would often use a spectral shard or a wizard spike, wall of the eyeless or lidless, and then eventually, spirit came out, and spirit was also very good. And then you had things like death fathom and all the other bases that you could potentially use. But staves or staves just never really caught on. And this is one of the reasons why the Arcanna set is just not a good set for the most part. It's definitely one of the worst sets in the game, and probably one of the least used sets in the game, I would imagine also. The only time I've ever used this set has been the 2-piece, and that is literally it. So it deserves the spot, in my opinion, at the worst, one of the top 10 worst sets in the game. Moving on to the next set that I believe is one of the worst sets in the game. Let's go back through the list here, and we'll just pull out the lists as they show up in the list. So we're not going to specifically pull any over others. There we go. There's another one of the worst ones. Now, some people will fight me on this one, and they did when I originally put it onto the list. They feel like Milabrega is much better than I'm giving it credit for, and it even has been upgraded. It's been upgraded from its previous, powers to a much stronger item now. Now it gives you like 170 maximum lightning damage. It gives you +2 pally skills, attack rating, mana leech, life leech, cannot be frozen. Like, it's amazing for a level 17 set. The problem is that number one, getting the entire set is sometimes very difficult. Number two, it has a weapon and it has a shield. This is a big detraction from the way that this set works. There are a lot better weapons and there are a lot better shields than Milabrega's shield and Milabrega's rod. Giggity. Milabrega's rod is not a particularly high damage weapon. And in fact, it tends to fall off relatively quickly in terms of damage output before you even finish normal difficulty. Like, I honestly don't even really think Milabrega is good enough to really leave normal difficulty. Is it good enough for Act 2? Sure. Is it good enough for Act 3? Yeah, kinda. It starts to fall off at the end of Act 3, and eventually you realize that your damage output really isn't high enough, your resistances really aren't high enough, and you need to take off maybe like one piece to maybe put on a shield or something, right? Like maybe an Ancient's Pledge just to shore up your resistances. Or maybe just take off the weapon just so you can have slightly better damage. And this is where the problem of this set lies. The problem of the set is in that it no longer gives you good bonuses if you're not wearing the entire set. So if you take off even one piece, the set bonuses diminish to almost nothing. Now you've only got 200 attack rating, the lightning damage, and cannot be frozen. All of the green set bonuses are relatively minimal, and if you take off the shield as well, you even lose the cannot be frozen. Most of the bonuses, if not almost all of the bonuses, like the leeching, the +2 skills, come from the full set. So breaking up the set in any way, shape, or form ruins any of the bonuses that it gives you. And because this set includes a weapon and a shield, not just one or the other, but a weapon and a shield, which is probably one of the worst things that you can do in terms of sets, you're always going to end up replacing the weapon at some point for a higher damage variant, and you're always going to end up replacing the shield at some point for a better shield. Like if somebody comes around and drops a Haas in your lap, you're going to take off the Milabregas and put on the Haas, at which point the Milabregas is broken. If somebody offers you a Rhyme Shield with a 45 all-res base, which is definitely something that you could potentially use early on, the Milabrega's Shield is going to leave your hand. If somebody offers you a better weapon, like a Baronera Star, or something that just has higher physical damage in general, or maybe it attacks much faster, which is also an issue with the Milabrega's Rod. In general, like, it just ends up being a very poor set in terms of like scalability across multiple levels. It's useless basically anywhere except for normal difficulty, and just doesn't retain any of its real benefit once you start removing pieces. And this is why Milabrega's has made it into one of the top 10 worst sets in the game. Now, moving on to the next set. Let's go down the list this time. Maybe we'll find something a little different. We'll do them in a different order, shall we? Boop, boop, boop. Aldur set. One of the worst sets in the game. We have a lot to talk about with Aldur set. It's shiny, though. It is shiny. Now, all of the class-based sets are special in some way, shape, or form. They're designed for use at higher levels, and they can potentially bring you through the game. Griswold's set is absolutely amazing and has multiple uses within the game. Tal Rasha's is one of the best sets in the game because it is useful even at endgame. Has high magic find, just a generally good item like overall. Even Mavina's can be very useful for an Amazon leveling up, and even at endgame you can clear everything. The problem with Aldur's is that it is none of those things. It has extremely low damage. It doesn't really offer you anything special that you couldn't get from elsewhere. And there are very few pieces of the set that are actually worth using. Let's start with Aldur's Rhythm as the first option here. Aldur's Rhythm's main problem is that it has no enhanced damage. Now, they did actually add enhanced damage to the set bonus, but the problem is that the enhanced damage does not actually affect the weapon directly. They should have added the enhanced damage to the weapon, not to the full set bonus. If this and 350% enhanced damage right here, if this was on the weapon, this would be amazing. But since it's not on the weapon, this is off-weapon enhancement. And off-weapon enhancement, as we all know, is not as good as on-weapon enhancement in terms of enhancing the damage of a weapon. And so in general, this doesn't offer enough enhancement to actually be useful to the weapon. And the enhancement doesn't work if you take off one piece, which is another very big problem. So Aldur's Rhythm, if you notice, has this like crazy set bonus, like +3 druid skills, 350% enhance, 150% in bonus to attack rating, 10% mana leech, 150 defense, 150 mana, all res 50, and a 50% better chance of magic items. But because it includes this poopy weapon, and you take off the weapon, notice now that the set bonus has diminished dramatically. Now it is no longer all these amazing things. Now it is just bonus attack rating and magic find. On top of this, we also have the fact that the individual set bonuses aren't really that amazing either. So the green bonuses only give you things like dexterity or vitality or energy, or in the case of the weapon, strength. And these green bonuses are like, gotta be the most bland. Like, yeah, you get something out of it. I guess a little bit of dexterity isn't a bad thing. A little bit of like, vitality isn't a bad thing, but couldn't they have come up with some better set bonuses than that? Like maybe some attack speed or honestly taking that 350% enhanced damage and put it onto the weapon, which would drastically change like the quality of that weapon and make it somewhat worthwhile. Another problem with this is that most of the pieces of the set are pretty much garbage stat-wise. The weapon is basically trash. Like, it is probably one of the worst weapons I've ever seen. It has 5% mana leech and 10% life leech, which do relatively nothing because there's no damage on the weapon. It has 200% enhanced damage to demons, which does relatively nothing because there's no damage on the weapon. It has fire damage of a very low amount, and it has increased attack speed, which is somewhat useful. The only really good thing this weapon has is 3 sockets, so you can put something else in it. And I don't even know what the hell you would even put in this weapon. I've tried to make characters with this set, and it just doesn't work. The helmet has 2 sockets, and it doesn't really have anything good on it at all. Like, it's got 50% cold res, I guess, which could be mildly okay, and 25% faster hit recovery. It's got no increased attack speed. It's got no life. It's got no pretty much anything on it that really makes it worthwhile in any way, shape, or form. The armor has really bland stats. Again, just not really a good piece of equipment. Like the bonuses that it has are relatively low. The stat bonuses are like okay at best, and just generally not a good item. The only item of the set that's any good whatsoever and that people actually use on a regular basis is the boots. That's it. The boots are relatively amazing, with 40% increased run walk, 50 life, fire resistance 50%, which happens to be very nice to cover that negative spot on the spirit, because spirit doesn't offer fire resistance, and even 10% damage taken goes to mana, which is absolutely insane for melee characters, especially early on, which completely solves all mana problems just in general. Aldur's boots, however, does not carry the set. Like, if we're talking about the set as a whole and how good this set is and whether people actually use it on a regular basis, nobody uses it. I don't think I've seen anybody use Aldur's set in forever, and even during, like, new games, nobody touches the dang thing. The boots are the only thing people use, for the most part, at all. And that's why Aldur's set made it into the top 10 worst sets in the game. Moving on to the next set on the list. Let's go ahead and scroll down the list here. And Hawaiians actually did not make the list, believe it or not. It actually does have moderate uses. I've actually used Hawaiians on several cases. Several pieces of it actually do get used, including the belt with Prevent Monster Heal. So it ends up being like a fairly decent choice. Bull Kathos also did not make the list because I've actually used it on several characters leveling up. Although I do think it needs work and it needs to be fixed a little bit, it definitely did not make the list. Boop, 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 boop. So many characters. Farty Sparty. That's right. You guys have seen my Farty Sparty character. Congratulations. I wanted this to be dramatic to find the sets, but I also can't find the sets. Next on the list is Civerbs. Civerbs is not a good set. It is a set that has like one item that anybody uses at any particular time. And the only reason people use Civerb's set is literally because they can upgrade Civerb's Cudgel, or rather use it for a relatively long period of time for the maximum damage. The problem is that the set bonuses on this set are relatively horrible. So you get a Cudgel, which does a decent amount of damage. And by the way, I don't really recommend using this Civerb's Cudgel. My personal opinion, I think that Cleglaws works much better. If you're looking for a scaling weapon to like follow you through the levels, I think that not only is it, I think it's a lower level, but Cleglaw's sword combined with Cleglaw's shield is actually a better combination in general than Civerb's. My personal opinion. Like, I don't usually use Civerbs because Civerbs has none of the good stats that Cleglaws has. And let me, just for, you know, like poops and giggles here, let me pull up Civerb's set real quick. And I'm going to show you what I mean. So if you've ever used Civerbs to level up your character and you're like, oh yeah, I would love to use Civerbs to level up my character because it has that scaling damage. Well, why not use Cleglaws instead? First off, Cleglaw's set has a 2-piece bonus of 50 defense, which isn't most amazing. But it does, however, have 50% Deadly Strike. It has the same scaling max damage that Civerbs does. It also has a scaling attack rating as well, which is actually on the gloves, I believe. Let's see here. This is it right here? Yeah, okay, this is it. So we're going to pull this up, and I'm going to show you what I mean. So if you utilize 2 items, you get the scaling maximum damage on the weapon. It also comes with 30% bonus attack rating and 50% deadly strike, and it's only level 4. Civerb's weapon, on the other hand, is level 9, which means that you can't even use it at the same level. Cleglaw's shield is an easy option to put together with Cleglaw's tooth because it gives you the all resistances, the poison length reduction, and it's also only level 4. Clegglaw's Pincers, on the other hand, has the scaling attack rating, but it also has a knockback and slows target by, and the knockback might not necessarily be what you're looking for. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's a horrible option. You're getting a 990 attack rating increase up to 990, a scaling maximum damage, and all resistances with poison length reduction by 75%, bonus attack rating, and deadly strike. Meanwhile, Civerbs is offering you only damage, and that's it. No deadly strike. The deadly strike alone doubles your damage and puts you ahead of what Civerb's Cudgel is offering you. Then there's the set bonuses. Like, the amulet is relatively poopy with just replenish life 4 and regenerate mana 40%. Could be somewhat useful to a character who's really mana dependent early on, but higher mana is actually almost always better than regeneration of mana. Then we have the shield, which is also really poopy with basically no good stats on it. And then the full set bonus doesn't even really offer anything super amazing. It's 25% bonus attack rating, which is okay. The Cleglaws has 30%, basically just on the weapon. Then you get 200% bonus damage to undead, which is off-weapon enhancement, which is only really going to help you in Act 2. 50 defense, 15 strength, 25 lightning res, 25 fire res, and that's about it. You get like a 26 poison res, so you get across the board, I think you end up with like 25 all res on the item, on the whole set. And then here's the biggest downside of this. It consumes both your weapon and your shield slot if you want to use the entire set, as well as your amulet slot, which are all very important. In general, like, nobody uses the full set. The only time you ever see anybody using this is just the weapon, and that's pretty much it. And even that is not really the best option for a low-level character. Cleglaw's Sword and Shield outpaces Civerbs by miles. It's lower level, it's easier to put on, and quite honestly, easier to obtain half the time as well, because I've got tons of freaking Cleglaws laying around all over the dang place. In general, Civerbs just not a good set. It really needs to be adjusted. Given some like sort of special benefits specifically for like undead, it seems to be designed around that. Another little tiny tidbit of information is that Civerbs is actually David Brevic's name backwards. Brevic. Brevic. So he actually made this set for himself. So Brevic's set that was named after him is pretty poopy. It's pretty garbage. Moving on to the next set. We have Orphan's Call. Now, you might be thinking immediately, as soon as I mentioned Orphan's Call, you might be thinking, well, Orphan's Call's not that bad. It's got the amazing helmet in it that everybody loves. Everybody loves this helmet, the G-Face. The G-Face is amazing. It is amazing, and it's one of the items that probably won't get tossed on the ground at the end of this conversation. But the thing is that G-Face is not enough to save this set. G-Face is a very good item, and we're not even going to talk about this item because this item is amazing. But the full set bonus for using Orphan's Call is really bad. It has 100 defense, 20 strength, 10 dex, 85 life, all res 15, attacker takes damage of 5, and 80% magic find. The 2-piece and 3-piece bonuses, however, are absolutely trash. Look at the 2-piece bonuses on this stuff. Like if I take off a piece of equipment, 35 life, attacker takes damage of 5, no green bonus, no green bonus, no green bonus, no green bonus. So piecemealing this set makes it very, very difficult to get any kind of benefit out of it whatsoever. The shield is somewhat useful as a high blocking shield, but gets outpaced by Moser's Blessed Circle, which comes with 2 sockets and has more resistances. So if you're trying to use a high blocking shield, you can just upgrade Moser's instead of upgrading this, put 2 perfect diamonds in Moser's, and call it a day. The belt is a dual leech belt, but most people don't use their belt slot for leeching. They use it for increased attack speed, like Nosferatu's Coil, or the Magic Find belt, which I'm blanking on at this particular moment, Gold Wrap. And, they use it for things like plus to skills, like Arachnid's Mesh, or they use it for, like, Prevent Monster Heal, like Hawanen's belt. And you generally don't use your belt slot for Mana Leech or Life Leech. You use a ring slot for that. In most cases, the belt's pretty much just garbage. The gloves are okay early on. They're not like the most amazing things in the world. I would much rather have a nice crafted pair of blood gloves with crushing blow. But they do have attack rating on them of plus 100 and can be mildly useful in the basic situations like as you're leveling up. But for the most part, they're pretty much garbage. And after a certain level, you never pick these up again and you never worry about them. The shield, like I said, is pretty much outpaced by like most other shield options. And again, it doesn't really get used by much of anyone. The G-Face is a really good item, and it does get used by a lot of people. The problem is that none of the other set pieces pair well with it. If I put the shield on, I get 35 life. Oh my god. If I put the gloves on, I get 35 life. If I put the belt on, I get 35 life. Even if I wear two pieces, I get a whole attacker takes damage of 5. Yay. Attacker takes damage of 5. That's, woo, baby. Oh, baby. All in all, the Orphan's Call set is one of the worst sets in the game. It has one standout piece of equipment, which is the G-Face, and for the most part, G-Face literally carries the entire set for the most part. Unfortunately for the list, and for the set itself, I had determined that a single item would not be able to carry a set to victory, or rather haul them out of the top 10 worst sets in the game. So while G-Face is an amazing piece of equipment, the set as a whole is garbage, and nobody uses Wiston's set, or rather Orphan's Call set pretty much at all. Moving on to the next set in the list. We have gotta actually find them. Isenharts. Here we go. Beautiful Isenharts. Isenharts actually does look kind of cool on the actual panel. Like hold on, let's go back and let's look at the character in the window. Look at him. He does look kind of cool. Like you got to admit, he's got like the hoplite helmet. The shield's got a bull on it. Like the sword doesn't look half bad. Like he didn't got no pants on, but it is a breastplate after all. So, I mean, overall, like the look of the set isn't absolutely terrible. But the set itself is terrible. As I've pointed out many, many times, if you have a weapon in a set, it automatically makes the set worse just simply because there's a weapon in it. Because if the weapon doesn't hold the muster, or if it's not the weapon that you want, or the actual weapon class type that you want, well then you can't wear it because, well, at that point, like, you don't use that weapon. Not only does Isenhart have a weapon, it also has a shield. It's got both. It's got a weapon and a shield. Now, Isenhart's isn't necessarily the worst set in the entire game, but it is worse than just about every other option that you can potentially use. Is it worse than Saigons? Yes. Is it worse than Arathas? Yes. Is it worse than Arctics? Yes. Is it worse than I'm trying to think of like another like low level set. Is it worse than Cleglaws? Yes. It's literally worse than just about every single other set that you can put on. Another problem with Isenharts is there's too many pieces and they're in too many high profile locations. So think about it like this. Gloves, boots, like rings, belt, amulet. These are all relatively innocuous locations, and you can utilize these in sets, and that's the reason why things like Angelic's rings and amulet is so good, or Iratha's helmet, gloves, boots, belt is really good, or if you're dealing with some of the Saigons pieces, if you do like piecemeal Saigons, you could do like gloves, helmet, or like gloves, boots, or something like that, or boots, helmet, and you can generally avoid the high-profile slots of the weapon, shield, and armor places, which give you a lot of your resistances, your damage, and like attack speed and like things like that, or a faster cast. So when it comes to Isenharts, it's already consuming 3 of the most high-profile slots in the game. The benefits that you get from using it aren't really all that amazing. Like, it has half the attack rating of Hasaurus, half the attack rating of Saigons, half the attack rating of Cleglaws. It has some attack speed on it, which is okay, and it has a little bit of life leech, but it has half the life leech of Saigons. It has less, I think it's half the attack speed of Saigon's as well, because Saigon says 30% on the gloves, right? And this one is 20% on the weapon, which also is a negative too because Saigon's doesn't have a weapon, which is also better, obviously, in general. The damage on the sword is also very low as well because it has no enhanced damage for some reason. I don't know why. The only thing that I've really ever used this for is I'll put like the two-piece on a mercenary like this, like early on in the game. If I get an Isenhart's breastplate and I get an Isenhart's horns, I'll put this two-piece on them like this, really early in the game, and I'm talking about like really early. Another problem with the Isenharts is its level. Like, it would be a much better set if it was a lower level set, like let's say level 3 or something, but it's level 8. Isenhart's is level 6. Hasaris is level 3. Cleglaws is level 4. There are a ton of other sets in the game that outpace Isenhart's by miles. And you wouldn't choose this over anything else. Erathas can take you to hell difficulty. Like, you can wear quite a few of the sets, and although Saigons won't take you to hell difficulty, it definitely has good piecemeal bonuses, like the 10% life leech and the 30% increased attack speed, or the scaling attack rating on the helmet. There's some very good, like, piecemeal options. What do you piecemeal when you have a weapon and a shield in the set? You can't piecemeal much of anything. The only thing you can do is wear the helmet and the armor is going to be consumed by something like Twitch Throw, or stealth armor, or like Skin of the Viper Magi or something. Like, you're going to put something better in that slot, or like Greyform Quilted armor than Isenhart's breastplate. So there's no piecemealing the set. The weapon takes up the most important slot, which is how you dish out your damage. The shield takes up the most important spot, which is how you get your resistances. And the helmet is probably the only piece of the set that isn't necessarily taking up anything super important, but it also doesn't have any good stats on it. 6 dex and damage reduced by 2. It's got to be one of the most stupid sets in the game. Can you beat normal difficulty with this set? Yeah, you probably could. You'd struggle through. You could struggle through and beat normal difficulty with the set. Would you be better off with just about any other set? Probably. Yeah, you'd probably be better off with just about any other set other than this. The damage on the sword would fall off really quickly. Like, once you left Act 2 normal, you would start to like really feel the fact that the damage on the sword is bad. The lack of resistances on the set would also come into play, and you would realize really quickly that having basically no resistances is pretty awful. Which is why Isenhart's deserves the spot as on the top 10 worst sets in the game. Let's move on to the next set, and I'm trying to think if I have covered them all. Bum, bum. Do, 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 do. Let's go all the way down, and let's go back up again. So we're looking for, I believe, 2 sets. One is the Heaven's Breatheren, which we have not covered yet. We also have not covered Sanders Folly, and Berserkers. There's one of the ones right there. So the Berserkers set. Berserker's Arsenal is a weird set. The damage on the Berserker's Hatchet is really low. And it gets a tiny bit of enhanced damage if you're wearing the full set. So one benefit of wearing the full set is that it does make the enhanced damage on the weapon slightly better. As you can see here, the enhanced damage on the weapon is currently 5 to 13 with no enhanced damage. And at 50% enhanced damage, our damage goes up quite considerably from 15 to 39 to 21 to 57 just by wearing one piece. The main issue comes into play is that, well, bonus attack rating is really not as useful as raw attack rating is, especially at early levels when you basically have no attack rating, which is kind of a big deal. Mana Leech is not really very useful on this because it doesn't really do very much damage, so you don't really get very much leech back. It does have a small amount of poison damage, which is really low for level 3. Even at level 3, that's really low. And it has 75% poison length reduction, which could come in handy when you're fighting Andariel. +1 skills on the armor is relatively useless because, well, barbarians don't really care about plus the skills all that much. For the most part, they're more about physical damage, attack rating, attack speed, all sorts of other various things which are going to help them. The defense is somewhat nice because it helps, in that regard. And then it does have the attack rating on the helmet, the 2-piece bonus on the helmet. Or actually, it's a 2-piece bonus on the helmet. The 2-piece bonus on the helmet is okay, but it consumes your armor and your helmet slot. You'd probably be better off using Saigons, but at level 3 you can't, so you can use Hasaris boots and belt, which also have attack rating, or Cleglaw's gloves and weapon, which is going to be a hell of a better combination, because you're going to be bashing anyway, so it doesn't matter. You get knocked back one way or the other. Or you can use Cleglaw's sword and shield and avoid the knockback and still end up with higher damage as well as attack rating bonuses on the weapon. In general, it's just not a good set for a level 3 character. If I was making a barbarian, I would rather use Saigon's set. I would rather use Hasaris' set, Cleglaw's set. There's other options too, like you could potentially be using, I'm trying to think, like one of the other really good low-level sets. I mean, even the Infernal set might technically be better than this set. I'm not entirely sure. The attack rating based on character level is like one of the only redeeming characteristics of this set. Other than that, there's really not a lot going for this set. The damage is very poor on a character that needs damage. And I think that's the most important takeaway here, is that as a barbarian, leveling up as a low-level barbarian, one of the things that you need the most is damage. You have skills that multiply your physical damage. You have things like Bash and Double Swing. You got things like Frenzy and Whirlwind and all these other things that are coming into play, and they all increase your physical damage. You also have things like, Blade Your Masteries, which all increase physical damage and allow you to do critical strikes. And the Berserker set just doesn't really have any real physical damage on it. It's a very low physical damage weapon for a time in your barbarian life where you need high physical damage. You would probably be better off, honestly, instead of using a Berserker's Axe, just grabbing a random weapon off the ground and throwing a bunch of chips or flawed gems in it and running that instead, because you're probably going to get a lot more damage out of it than you would a Berserker's Hatchet. On top of that, the overall stats on the items are just not the greatest either. In general, when it comes to this set, I don't even really recommend even picking up the pieces for the most part. Maybe if you had no other choice and you happen to find the splint mail and you happen to find the helmet and you didn't have any other options. So if you didn't have any other options and you had these two on your at your disposal, then you could potentially use these for the attack rating bonus at the very least. But the moment that you have any of the other options, like Hasaris boots, Hasaris belt, Saigon's boot, Saigon's helmet, or Saigon's helmet and Saigon's gloves, or Cleglaw's weapon and Cleglaw's gloves, there's just so many different combinations of items that are better than Berserkers. And I definitely think it deserves a spot on the worst sets in the game. Another set that we need to go over is Sanders set. Sanders Folly, I believe, is the name of this set. Sanders has got to be one of the weirdest sets. I think it was made for a melee necromancer. I think that was the goal. I think when somebody made Sanders' set, I think they were like, hey, let's make a set for a melee necromancer. And they're like, what? And they're like, yeah, melee necromancer, let's go. Like, okay. There are some moderate uses for some of the pieces of this set. Like Sanders' Riprap Boots can be useful for a melee character leveling up because of that 100 attack rating and 10 dexterity with 5 strength. So it's a pretty decent little 40% faster run walk item that has attack rating on it and a tiny bit of strength. So it's useful, but not really endgame best in slot on any build or anything. As soon as you have better boots, you're generally going to be using those over Sanders. The helmet is kind of poopy. It has Magic Find on it. That's about it. And, not really the most amazing thing out there. The gloves have increased attack speed on them, and in a complete vacuum of increased attack speed options, Sanders Taboo is halfway decent. But as soon as you get access to anything better, Magnus skin gloves, friggin' blood gloves, any plus 20% increased attack speed gloves that have better stuff than this. Sanders Taboo tends to be replaced relatively quickly. Sanders Superstition has increased the cast rate on it, which is really nice. But it's also level 25, which pretty much just completely eliminates it from ever being used. Because as soon as you have a spirit at level 24, one level prior to Sanders Superstition, you will never touch this thing again. It has cold damage on it and mana leech, but no physical damage. I don't know why they put mana leech on an item that has no physical damage. It's really stupid because you need physical damage to actually leech. And then let's look at the set bonuses. So it has no green set bonuses. So you can't put on like 2 pieces and get a green set bonus. It doesn't have one. In fact, 2 pieces only nets you 50 defense, which is awful. 3 pieces nets you 75 attack rating and 50 defense, which is also pretty awful. And then finally, the full set bonus gives you +1 to all skills, 75 attack rating, 4% life leech. I don't know why it has life leech on it, because, again, there's no physical damage on the wand. 50 defense, 50 mana, and 50% better chance of magic items. The magic find is really the only thing that's even, like, mildly worth anything, and you have to give up your weapon slot, your helmet slot, your boots, and your gloves, which is really weird. I don't know anybody that would ever use multiple pieces of this set, let alone even one piece of this set with any kind of seriousness. They are throwaway pieces that have a place in mid-game to put on as a placeholder until you find better items. But due to their high level, some of the items don't even work as placeholders. Sanders Superstition will never work as a good faster cast item because it's way too high level, and there's so many better options that are lower level than Sanders Superstition. The hat has Magic Find on it, but you could literally get better Magic Find by finding a socketed 3-socket helmet and putting perfect topazes in it, and just, it's not a good option at all. The gloves and the boots are generally okay options for low-level melee characters, but in general, the gloves get replaced as soon as you have something better, and the boots get replaced as soon as you have something better. And that's pretty much how Sanders rolls out. Last on the list, I believe this is last on the list. We'll do a quick check just to make sure it actually is last on the list, is the Heavens set. Known as the Heavens Breatheren set. Actually, this is not the last one on the list. We got one more. We got one more after this. Heavens Breatheren set is one of those weird sets that, like, again, has a weapon and a shield. You're noticing a theme here. Like, most of the worst sets in the game usually include a weapon and a shield. And that is just how it seems to work. If the weapon and the shield are not up to muster, if they don't actually, like, fulfill their purpose, which your weapon is primarily used as either A, a way to increase your spell damage, or B, a way to increase your physical damage, right? Well, Dangun's teaching, the mace, doesn't really have good physical enhancement. In fact, it has no physical enhancement. But it does have scaling maximum damage based on character level, which gives it at least some damage as opposed to no damage. However, it also separates out the min and the max rather tremendously and makes the overall attack damage on the weapon very low. When you're level 4 and you're using a Clegglaw's sword that has increased maximum damage, it's fine because you're level 4. When you're level 68 and you're using increased maximum damage as your main form of increasing the damage on your weapon, that's not good. That's not a good thing in any way, shape, or form. So the damage on the weapon is severely lacking. It does have some interesting things, like 10% chance to cast level 3 Frost Nova on striking, which is nice for defensive purpose. It has increased attack speed, and it has a tiny bit of fire damage, but overall the weapon really fails. The armor has nothing on it that is even, like, remotely worthwhile. Maybe the 75 to life. It's got a bunch of defense on it that nobody cares about. It doesn't even have particularly high defense at 702. It has no enhanced defense, which also makes it relatively low in terms of defensiveness. Like, I've seen armors as high as like 3,000 defense, and this armor has 702. Woo! The shield also likewise doesn't really have a lot of really good mods on it. It does have faster blocking and increased chance of blocking with a little bit of mana. It's also indestructible for some odd reason. And it has 30% lightning res. The helmet, which for some reason within the Discord has been dubbed the Burger King crown, doesn't have any real good stats on it either. It's halfway decent on like a mercenary early on if you have no other option, but as soon as you have a better option, you just take it off and don't use it ever again. It's a spired helm, so it has relatively high strength requirement, but it does come with negative requirements to kind of like offset that. The faster hit recovery is nice. That's the main reason why I would recommend putting it on a mercenary. But like I said, if you have any better option, you should not use it. It also comes with 10% chance to cast level 3 Weaken on striking, which basically means you'll be overriding all your amp and your Decrepify curses, which is bad. Now, that being said, the set bonus is actually kind of neat. It has +2 all skills. It has 273 maximum fire damage based on character level, which kind of sucks, by the way, because fire damage doesn't scale with enhanced damage modifiers. It would be better if that was actually physically fire damage, or physical damage, not fire damage, but so be it. It does have 10% life leech, which is okay because you do have the plus max, although your average is really bad. Replenish life 30, which is pretty insane. All resistance is 50. Physical damage reduced by 24%. 24%. That's a very high amount of physical damage reduction, as well as cannot be frozen and +5 light radius. However, here's the rub. If you take off one item, now you lose pretty much everything that the set was giving you. So if you take off one item, you lose that +2 skills. You lose the 10%, or sorry, the 24% physical damage reduction, the 50 all res. You lose the cannot be frozen. You lose all the good stats if you take off just one item, which means that you have to wear every single item. And in a very similar turn of events to Isenhart's set, look, we're in the same exact place. The weapon slot is being consumed, our shield slot is being consumed, our armor slot is being consumed, and our helmet. All one of the most important slots in the game are being consumed by this set. And so you can't replace any pieces. You can't put on like a Haas if you want to. You can't put on like a Astrion's Iron Ward or a Grief if you want to. Because if you split the set up by removing even one piece, you lose all of the bonuses. There's no green bonuses either, which is very strange. And this is also kind of an issue with this set, is that you can't really piecemeal any of this set at all. So you either wear the full set or you don't get to wear the set, because nobody's going to use, say, like Hermosa's Adamant by itself. Nobody's going to use like the Burger King crown by itself, and nobody's going to use like the shield by itself. Now, if you combine the armor and the helmet together, you get 10% life leech, which is okay. It's moderately okay. And if you combine the shield together with that, you get the 30 replenished life, which is kind of interesting. But none of these stats are going to be particularly good in terms of like your total overall output. And looking at your resistances, I'm still in the negatives on all resistances except for lightning while wearing this set. So you're still going to have to solve all of your resistance problems with just your gloves, rings, belt, boots, and amulet. And good luck. Because your shield is one of the best places that you're ever going to get resistances from, with things like a Umruned Haas or a Ancient's Pledge or a Spirit Shield or other various options. There's tons of various options that give really good resistances on your shield. And so losing this as your resistances is pretty bad. The 50 all res that it gives you doesn't make up for that. Like, that's a full set bonus for the entire thing. That means you're losing your armor, your helmet, and your shield for 50 res, when you could just put on a good shield that gives you more resistances. Now, the interesting thing about this set is that it's not like the most horrible set in the game. It's just worse than every other option that you could potentially put on. And what I mean by worse than every other option is that, well, like, obviously anything would be better that's not in this list. Like, Griswold's would be better, like Mavina's would be better, I'm not entirely sure if Alders would be better. I think Alders is worse, but Alders is also on the list. And in general, like, the set is just kind of poopy. Could you beat the Ubers with this? Yes, it's been done. Before they buffed it, even. So if you wanted to beat the Ubers with this set, you could actually do it. But why would you stunt yourself with this set? Why would you put yourself in a position where your damage is worse, your resistances are worse, your overall character is just in a poor place because you're wearing this set? Like, the 24% physical damage reduction might seem like a lot, but think about the fact that you're giving up your body armor slot. You could be wearing a shaft stop and end up with more physical damage reduction than this would ever give you. It gives you +2 skills, sure. But, like, what does that matter in the grand scheme of things when it consumed all of the slots that you could potentially get +2 skills from? I could have +2 skills on my shield. I could have +2 skills on my weapon. I could have +2 skills on my armor. I could have +2 skills on my helmet. I could be running 2, 4, 6, 8 +2 skills. It's giving me 2 when I could have 8. Right? And this is where the real problem with this set comes down. It comes down to the fact that it's just not good piecemeal, and it's just not good in the full version either. There are so many better options and so many better sets and so many better uniques and so many better items that you could put in these slots. And that's really all there is to it. Any set that has a weapon and a shield in it is automatically going to be very scrutinized because you're consuming some of the most important slots in the game. And then the armor and the helmet, like, it's just not the greatest. I mean, it even looks weird. It looks all, like, mismatched and everything. A little bit of trivia for you, though. The shield is actually a ceiling tile, or a roof tile. I actually looked this up, and this is actually in my set video. This is actually a roof tile from a Korean prince's palace that fell off and was recovered from a pond outside of the palace. Apparently in Korea, they believe that evil spirits can be scared away with, like, spooky faces and things like that. So they would make things that had spooky faces on them, put them up all over the place. So when the evil spirit would see it, they would get spooked and they would run away. This was basically something that would spook and make evil spirits run away. It's not even a shield. It's actually a roof tile. Moving on to the last on the list, because I do believe this is the last one, is Tancreds. Tancreds definitely deserves a spot on this list. It is one of the worst sets in the game. I don't know what they were thinking when they made this set. It's not good by, like, almost any standard. It has, like, one redeeming quality, and that's the magic find bonus on the amulet. But for the most part, like, it's just really, really bad. And I actually want to show you guys something funny. I'm going to show you guys something funny here as well. So, where is the soul rune? I'm going to show you something funny. So the Tancred's Crowbill is a Crowbill. And it's not a Crowbill, it's a military pick. However, if you upgrade Tancred's Crowbill into a higher tier, into the exceptional tier, it turns into a Crowbill. And it goes from the military pick at 12 to 19 damage to the Crowbill at 25 to 61 damage. And then you have, rather hilariously, a Tancred's Crowbill. I'm not even joking. I can't make this up. You have a Tancred's Crowbill, which is rather silly. Now, why is Tancred's so bad? Well, first off, it has a weapon in it, which is one of the big issues. The weapon doesn't really do very much damage, and even if you upgrade it, it's still not really the greatest thing out there, and it has a level 30 requirement when you upgrade it. On top of this, like, it doesn't really, like, this is never going to be a good base. Like, I think across the game, this base is one of the worst bases damage-wise, like, in the game. Like, nobody uses the military pick, the Crowbill, or the elite version, which I can't remember right off the top of my head. But nobody uses that base. It's just it's a terrible base. So it's already bad from the base standpoint, and then on top of that, it's not very good from other standpoints either. So its level requirement is level 20. So with the damage that it had when it was a Tancred's Crowbill military pick, wasn't enough for level 20. And by the time you hit level 30, it's not enough for level 30 either, really. It's okay. It's like moderately okay-ish by like the most strict of standards of like, yes, you can kill things, but like, why would I use this instead of something better? It does have some green bonuses, though, which is actually kind of interesting. It's got 20% increased attack speed and 20 mana. It's got all res 10 on the helmet. It's got defense on the plate. It has faster run walk and strength on the boots. And it has magic find and attack rating on the amulet. Most of this set, though, the Crowbill, the helmet, the armor, all garbage. Nobody uses these ever. If you find the armor, throw it away. If you find the helmet, just throw it away. Like, if you find the weapon, just throw it away. Like, they are probably among some of the worst items in the game. And it's not necessarily that the stats are horrible. Like, 10% enhanced damage and 40 attack rating would be really good at, like, level 3. It'd be really good at level 3. At level 20, though, if you don't got something better than that, by the time you hit level 20, you got more problems than whether Tancred's is a good set or not. The Tancred Spine has 15 strength and 40 life, which is okay if you were like level 15 or 10 or something. If you were like level 10, it'd be okay at level 10. Like, but at level 20, no, you should be wearing better equipment than that by now. The damage output on Tancred's Crowbill military pick is okay for level 20. It's not amazing by any stretch of the imagination, but like, you should have a better weapon than Tancred's Crowbill by the time you hit level 20. If you don't, then, like I said, you've got more problems than whether Tancred's is a good set. And then finally, we're down to the amulet that has literally the worst stats in the world on it. Damage reduced by 2 and magic damage reduced by 1. I'm pretty sure I've seen better amulets than this at level 1. As I'm killing things in the Bloodmoor, I've seen better amulets than this. And the boots, on the other hand, also have the worst stats I've ever seen for a level 20 item of 10 dexterity and heal stamina plus 25%. Now, if you put the boots on with another piece, and the only real other piece that you want to put on with these boots is the amulet, because you don't put the weapon on, you're not going to put the helmet on, and you don't want to put the armor on. But you take the amulet and you put that together with the boots, and you get the only good thing in the entire set, which is 78% magic find and 30% faster run walk. That is the only combination right there of this set that is worth anything whatsoever, and it does not carry this set. There is problems, though. So one of the biggest issues with this is that the boots are so freaking rare for some reason. I don't know why, but like finding Tancred's hobnails is basically the equivalent of finding a Skin of the Viper Magi. Actually, a little bit harder than that, like a Skulder's Ire. Like, it's about the equivalent of finding a Skulder's Ire. Like, that's how freaking rare these stupid boots are. When people find them, I tell them all the time, I'm like, hang on to them, because you'll find the amulet at some point, and then you can put them together, and you can get the magic find bonus. And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, the boots are pretty much impossible to find. You found them, so you got the hard part out of the way. And then let's take a look at the full set bonus. So the full set bonus is 15 lightning damage, which is poop. Dual leech, which is pretty poop because the weapon is poop, because leech is directly related to how much damage you put out. And if you're putting out no damage, then you get basically no leech. It also has slows target by 35%, which is okay. However, if you don't wear the full set, you don't get that. It also has all resistances 10, which is nothing. I mean, for normal difficulty, I guess that's okay. But as a level 20 set leading into nightmare difficulty, what? And then it has 75% extra gold for monsters. This whole set is so bad. And the Crowbill is trash. The armor is trash. The helmet is trash. The amulet is also trash, and the boots are trash, and the only reason you would ever hang on to these is for the magic find bonus at the start of a ladder. And you know what the funny thing is a little bit further down the road, as soon as you get your hands on a couple good items that have better magic find on them, guess what? Trash and trash. And I think that pretty much covers everything. So if you guys want to see the list in its entirety, the list is Arcanna's Tricks, Berserker's Arsenal, Siverb's set, Isenhart's Armor, Milabrega's set, Tancred's set, Aldur's Watchtower, Heaven's Breatheren, Orphan's Call, and Sanders' Folly. I hope you guys enjoyed this list of the 10 worst sets in the game. As always, I do appreciate you guys and gals joining. Be sure to hit that like button and the subscribe button if you enjoy the content. And as always, keep watching.